A police officer pulled over a black woman in scrubs and mocked her in front of a crowd. "You nurses think you're doctors now?" he sneered. "Let me see your real ID, not some fake hospital badge." The woman stayed calm, but her hands were shaking. What that officer didn't know? The woman he just humiliated was Dr. Angela Hayes, a decorated Army veteran with a PhD in criminal justice. And in exactly 48 hours, she would be announced as his new police chief, the youngest black woman to ever hold that position in the state. In the next 3 days, that officer went from laughing to unemployment. This story will show you why respect matters, why assumptions destroy careers, and why you should never judge someone by their appearance. Because sometimes, the person you're mocking is about to become your boss. Before we dive into this powerful story, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss more stories about justice, karma, and people getting exactly what they deserve. Now let's see how this unfolded. Angela Hayes was 38 years old. She grew up in the south side of Chicago in a neighborhood where police brutality was common. Her father had been wrongfully arrested when she was 12. That experience changed her life forever. Angela decided she would change the system from the inside. She joined the Army at 18, served 2 tours in Iraq as a military police officer, and earned medals for her leadership. After the military, she went to college on the GI Bill. She didn't just get a bachelor's degree. She got a master's degree in criminal justice, then a PhD. She studied police reform, community relations, and constitutional law. She became an expert that cities across America called for advice. For the past 5 years, Angela had been working as a consultant while also volunteering as a nurse at a community health clinic on weekends. She believed in serving her community in every way possible. She wore her nursing scrubs proudly, even though she had multiple advanced degrees. 3 weeks ago, the city council had secretly voted to hire Angela as the new police chief. The announcement was scheduled for Monday. Today was Saturday. Derek Morrison was 29 years old. He'd been a police officer for 6 years. He came from a family of cops. His father, his grandfather, and his uncle all wore the badge. Derek thought that legacy made him untouchable. But Derek had a serious problem. He had been the subject of 14 civilian complaints in 6 years. Complaints about excessive force. Complaints about racial profiling. Complaints about verbal abuse. Every single complaint had been filed against black citizens. The department had protected Derek because of his family connections. His father had been a captain before retiring. His uncle was still a sergeant. Nobody wanted to create problems by disciplining the son and nephew of respected officers. Derek had learned that he could treat people, especially black people, however he wanted. He'd faced no real consequences. That was about to change. It was 3 p.m. on a Saturday afternoon. Angela was driving home from her shift at the community clinic, still wearing her blue nursing scrubs. She was tired but happy. In 48 hours, her dream of reforming the police department from the top would begin. She was driving through a busy shopping district when she saw the flashing lights behind her. Angela checked her speedometer. She hadn't been speeding. She used her turn signal to pull over safely, confused about why she was being stopped. Officer Derek Morrison stepped out of his patrol car with a smirk on his face. He'd seen the woman in scrubs and immediately made assumptions. In his mind, she was probably a nursing assistant from the community clinic. Probably didn't make much money. Probably couldn't afford a lawyer if he decided to write her multiple tickets. What Derek didn't know was that his entire career was about to end. Derek walked up to Angela's window slowly, deliberately making her wait. It was a power move he'd learned from older officers. Make them nervous, make them feel small. Angela rolled down her window and kept her hands visible on the steering wheel. She'd been pulled over before. She knew how to stay safe. "License and registration," Derek said, not even looking at her face. "Of course, officer. May I ask why you pulled me over?" Angela's voice was calm and professional. Derek finally looked at her. He saw the nursing scrubs and his smirk grew wider. "You were weaving between lanes. Possible DUI." Angela knew that was a lie. She hadn't been weaving at all, but she stayed calm. "Officer, I haven't been drinking. I just finished a shift at the community health clinic. I'm happy to take any sobriety test you'd like." "Oh, you work at the community clinic." Derek's voice was dripping with condescension. "Let me guess, nursing assistant. Or maybe you empty bedpans?" People walking by on the sidewalk stopped to watch. A small crowd was gathering. Several people had their phones out recording. Angela took a deep breath. "I'm a registered nurse, officer. Now may I reach for my license?" "Slowly," Derek said. And I want to see a real ID, not just some hospital badge you probably bought online. Angela handed Derek her driver's license. He looked at it, then looked at her face, then back at the license. This address is in the Heights, Derek said loudly, making sure the growing crowd could hear. You're telling me a nurse from the community clinic lives in the Heights, one of the richest neighborhoods in the city? Yes, officer, that's where I live, Derek laughed. Right, and I'm supposed to believe you can afford that on a nurse's salary? What, you got a sugar daddy paying your bills? The crowd gasped. Several women shook their heads in disgust. One elderly black man yelled out, "That's disrespectful." Angela's hands gripped the steering wheel tighter. She wanted to tell this officer exactly who she was. She wanted to tell him about her Army service, her PhD, her new position. But something stopped her. She wanted to see exactly how far he would go. She wanted to document his true character. "Officer, I work hard for everything I have," Angela said quietly. "Is there a traffic violation you're citing me for?" Derek walked around her car slowly, looking for any excuse to extend this humiliation. He checked her brake lights, her tires, her registration sticker. Everything was perfect. He came back to her window. "You know what I think? I think this car is stolen. I think you're impersonating a nurse. I need you to step out of the vehicle." "On what grounds?" Angela asked, her voice still calm but firmer now. "On the grounds that I'm a police officer and I said so," Derek snapped. "Now get out of the car before I drag you out." The crowd was getting larger. At least 20 people were watching now. Multiple phones were recording. A woman in the crowd called out, "She hasn't done anything wrong." Derek spun toward the crowd. "All of you back up. This is police business. If you don't move, I'll arrest you for obstruction." Angela made a decision. She would comply, document everything, and let the system she was about to lead handle this properly. She slowly opened her car door and stepped out. "Hands on the vehicle," Derek ordered. "Officer, you haven't told me what law I've broken." "I don't have to explain myself to you," Derek said. He grabbed Angela's arm roughly and pushed her against her car. The crowd erupted in shouts of protest. A young man in the crowd stepped forward. "I recorded everything. She didn't do anything. You pulled her over for no reason." Derek let go of Angela and marched toward the young man. "Give me that phone right now." "No," the young man said. "I know my rights. You can't take my phone." Derek reached for his taser. The crowd backed up, frightened. This situation was spiraling out of control. That's when another police car pulled up. Officer Maria Santos stepped out. Maria was a 15-year veteran known for her integrity. She'd been driving by and saw the crowd. "Morrison, what's going on?" Maria asked. "I've got a suspicious person, possible stolen vehicle," Derek said. Maria looked at Angela standing by her car in nursing scrubs, hands still visible, completely calm. She looked at Derek's aggressive posture. She looked at the crowd of witnesses recording on their phones. "Did you run her plates?" Maria asked. "I was about to run them now," Maria said firmly. Derek, annoyed, went back to his patrol car and ran Angela's license plate. It came back clean, registered to Angela Hayes at an address in the Heights. No warrants, no issues. Maria walked over to Angela. "Ma'am, are you all right?" "I'm fine, officer," Angela said. "Though I'd like to know what traffic violation warranted this stop." Maria looked at Derek. "Morrison, what was the violation?" "She was weaving," Derek said, but his voice was less confident now. "I have a dash cam," Angela said quietly. "It records continuously whenever I drive. It will show I wasn't weaving." Derek's face went pale. Maria's eyes narrowed. "Morrison, give her back her license and let her go." Now, Officer Morrison." Derek walked back to Angela and literally threw her license at her. It fell on the ground. Angela bent down calmly, picked it up, and got back in her car. As she drove away, she looked in her rearview mirror and saw Officer Santos talking intensely to Derek. The crowd was still there. The phones were still recording. Angela made one phone call from her car. To the HR director who had hired her. "We need to talk about Officer Derek Morrison, now." Within 2 hours, the HR director had reviewed Angela's dashcam footage. It clearly showed she hadn't been weaving. It clearly showed Derek had no legitimate reason for the stop. The HR director also reviewed the videos posted online by the witnesses. By Saturday evening, the videos had over 100,000 views combined. The hashtag #JusticeForNurse was trending locally, but the public didn't know the full story yet. They didn't know that the nurse was actually about to become the police chief. The mayor called an emergency meeting for Sunday morning. Present were the mayor, the HR director, the outgoing police chief, the city attorney, and Angela Hayes. Dr. Hayes, the mayor said, using her proper title for the first time in front of the outgoing chief. I'm deeply sorry for what happened to you yesterday. The outgoing chief, Chief Roberts, looked confused. Dr. Hayes? Angela smiled slightly. Chief Roberts, we haven't been formally introduced yet. I'm Angela Hayes. I have a PhD in criminal justice. I'm a former Army MP, and as of Monday's press conference, I'm your replacement as police chief. Chief Roberts' mouth fell open. He looked at the mayor, who nodded. The officer who stopped you, the mayor continued, was Derek Morrison. I understand you want him terminated immediately. Angela held up her hand. Actually, I don't, not yet. Everyone in the room looked surprised. Here's what I want, Angela said, standing up and walking to the front of the room like she was giving a briefing. Her military training showed clearly. Monday morning, I want the press conference to announce my appointment to proceed as planned. I don't want any mention of Saturday's incident, not yet. Why not? The city attorney asked. Because I want to see what Officer Morrison does. Does he report the incident to his supervisors? Does he lie in his report? Does he try to cover it up? His actions over the next 48 hours will tell me everything I need to know about his character. Angela pulled out a folder. I've already done my homework on Officer Morrison. 14 civilian complaints in 6 years, all against black citizens, all dismissed or ignored. His father was Captain Morrison. His uncle is still Sergeant Morrison. The department has been protecting him because of his family connections. Chief Roberts looked uncomfortable. He knew this was true. Here's what's going to happen, Angela continued. I will be announced as chief on Monday. Morrison will be in the audience. I checked the schedule. He's on day shift and required to attend. When he sees me, when he realizes who I am, I want to see his face. And then, the mayor asked, and then I will place him on immediate administrative leave pending a full investigation. Not just of Saturday's incident, but of all 14 complaints that were swept under the rug. If the investigation confirms what I already suspect, he'll be terminated and I'll recommend charges. Angela looked around the room. Gentlemen, I was hired to reform this department. Officer Morrison is exactly the kind of officer who makes good cops look bad. He's the reason communities don't trust us. And I'm going to make sure everyone understands that this kind of behavior ends now. Monday morning arrived. The police department auditorium was packed with officers, city officials, and media. Derek Morrison sat in the third row, looking bored. He'd heard they were getting a new chief, but he didn't really care. Whoever it was would be just another administrator. His family connections would keep him safe. The mayor walked to the podium. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here. Today I'm proud to announce a historic appointment. Our new police chief is the youngest person to hold this position in our city's history. She's also the first black woman to serve as chief in our state. Derek perked up slightly. A black woman chief? This might be interesting. She brings an extraordinary resume, the mayor continued. 8 years in the Army as a military police officer, including 2 combat tours, multiple commendations for leadership. A PhD in criminal justice from Northwestern University. 5 years as a nationally recognized consultant on police reform. Derek was starting to feel uneasy. Please welcome your new police chief, Dr. Angela Hayes. Angela walked onto the stage in her dress uniform. Derek Morrison's face went completely white. He recognized her immediately. The nurse. The woman he'd mocked, humiliated, and assaulted just 48 hours ago. Angela looked directly at him as she approached the microphone. Their eyes met. Derek's hands started shaking. Thank you, Mayor, Angela said. I'm honored to serve this city and this department. I believe in the power of good policing. I also believe in accountability, transparency, and treating every citizen with dignity and respect. She paused, still looking at Derek. Some of you already know me. Others will get to know me very soon. I promise you this. If you serve with honor, you'll have my full support. But if you abuse your badge, if you violate citizens' rights, if you disgrace this uniform, you will be held accountable. No exceptions, no special treatment, no matter who your family is. Derek stood up and tried to leave quietly. Officer Morrison, Angela's voice rang out, please sit down. I'm not finished. The entire auditorium turned to look at Derek. He froze. Officer Morrison, please come to the stage, Angela said. Derek's legs barely carried him forward. The walk from his seat to the stage felt like a mile. Every officer in that room was watching him. When he reached the stage, Angela gestured to the large screen behind her. This is dashcam footage from Saturday, June 15th, at approximately 3 p.m. Officer Morrison, you're the officer in this video, correct? The screen showed the entire traffic stop. Angela's car, clearly driving straight and legal. Derek pulling her over for no reason. Derek's mocking words about nurses and sugar daddies, the rough treatment, the thrown license. The room was completely silent except for the audio from the video. When it ended, Angela turned to Derek. "Officer Morrison, you pulled me over without probable cause. You mocked my profession. You made racist and sexist assumptions. You physically grabbed me. And you threw my identification on the ground." Derek's mouth opened, but no words came out. "As of this moment, you are on administrative leave without pay, pending a full investigation. You will surrender your badge and weapon to Lieutenant Rodriguez immediately. You are not to contact any member of this department or any witnesses. Do you understand?" "Chief, I didn't know, you didn't know I was about to become your chief. That's your defense." Angela's voice was firm but calm. "Officer Morrison, the problem isn't that you disrespected your future boss. The problem is that you would have treated me exactly the same way regardless of who I was. And that's why you don't belong in this uniform." Lieutenant Rodriguez came to the stage. Derek, hands shaking, removed his badge and unholstered his weapon. In front of the entire department, he handed them over. As Derek walked out of the auditorium, some officers looked away in shame. Others looked at Angela with new respect. This chief wasn't just talk. She meant business. Over the next 2 weeks, Angela ordered a complete review of all 14 complaints against Derek Morrison. She brought in an independent investigator from the state police. The results were damning. Derek had pulled over black drivers at 3 times the rate of white drivers, used excessive force in situations that didn't require it, made false statements in police reports to justify his actions. Been protected by supervisors who buried complaints. Angela also discovered that Derek's father and uncle had been pressuring other officers not to cooperate with the investigation. That was witness tampering. 3 weeks after the press conference, Angela held another public meeting. This time, it was at a community center in the neighborhood where Derek had done most of his profiling. "I want to thank this community for your patience," Angela said to the packed room. "The investigation into Officer Derek Morrison is complete. He has been terminated from the police department. I've also referred his case to the district attorney for possible criminal charges including assault, false imprisonment, and filing false reports." The room erupted in applause. "But that's not enough," Angela continued, raising her hand for quiet. "Derek Morrison wasn't the only problem. The problem was a culture that protected him, supervisors who ignored complaints, a system that valued family connections over justice." Angela clicked to a presentation slide. "Here's what's changing immediately. All civilian complaints will be investigated by an independent review board. All traffic stops will be recorded on body cameras. No exceptions. All officers will undergo monthly training on constitutional rights and de-escalation. And any officer with more than 3 sustained complaints will be automatically reviewed for termination." An elderly black woman stood up. "Chief Hayes, why should we trust that this will really change?" Angela looked at her directly. "Because I've lived it. I've been on the receiving end of what Derek Morrison did. I know exactly how it feels to be judged by the color of my skin instead of the content of my character. And I promise you, as long as I'm chief, no one else will have to experience what I experienced." 6 months after taking office, Angela's reforms were working. Civilian complaints had dropped by 60%. Community trust in police had improved significantly. Crime was down because people were actually calling police instead of handling things themselves. Derek Morrison had been convicted of assault and false imprisonment. He served 4 months in jail and was banned from ever working in law enforcement again. His father had retired early in disgrace. His uncle had been demoted for trying to interfere with the investigation. But Angela's biggest victory wasn't Derek's punishment. It was what happened with Officer Maria Santos. Maria, the officer who had intervened during the traffic stop, had been harassed by other officers for siding against a fellow cop. But Angela promoted Maria to sergeant and put her in charge of the new constitutional policing training program. "You did the right thing that day," Angela told Maria during the promotion ceremony. "You saw something wrong and you stopped it. That's what good cops do. And now you're going to teach other officers to do the same." The department still had problems. Changing culture takes time. But officers who served honorably felt supported. Officers who abused their power knew they'd face consequences. Angela created a program where officers spent time in the communities they served, not arresting people, just talking, building relationships, learning names, understanding struggles. She started a youth mentorship program where officers coached basketball, helped with homework, and showed kids that not all cops were like Derek Morrison. 1 year after that Saturday traffic stop, Angela was invited to speak at the police academy graduation. She stood before 50 new officers about to receive their badges. "When I give you this badge today," Angela said, "I'm giving you enormous power, the power to stop people, the power to arrest them, in some cases the power over life and death. That power must be used with wisdom, restraint, and humility." She held up her own badge. "This badge doesn't make you better than anyone else. It makes you a servant. You serve the people, all people, regardless of their race, their job, their neighborhood, or how much money they have." Angela paused, thinking back to that day with Derek. "Some of you will meet people who challenge you, people who make you angry, people who you think don't deserve respect, but everyone deserves respect. Not because of who they are, but because of who you are. You're police officers. You're held to a higher standard." She looked at each young face in front of her. "Never assume you know someone's story by looking at them. That nurse might be a war hero. That homeless person might be a veteran. That teenager might be the future mayor. And even if they're not, even if they're just regular people struggling through life, they still deserve to be treated with dignity." Angela smiled. "I learned this lesson in the Army, respect the rank, not the person. But I've learned something better in civilian life. Respect the person, period. No matter their rank, no matter anything else." As she handed out badges to the new officers, Angela thought about Derek Morrison. He'd learned too late that actions have consequences. That disrespect has a price. That the person you judge today might be the person who determines your future tomorrow. But more importantly, Angela thought about the change she'd created. The officers standing before her had been trained differently. They'd been taught that serving with honor means treating everyone with respect. That was Derek Morrison's real legacy. Not his punishment, but the change his behavior inspired. If this story moved you or taught you something important, hit that like button and subscribe to our channel right now. We share real stories about justice, courage, and people getting exactly what they deserve. Drop a comment and tell us, have you ever been judged unfairly because of your appearance or job? How did you handle it? Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you never miss another powerful story. Thanks for watching, and remember, treat everyone with respect, not because of who they are, but because of who you are. See you in the next story.